Hey everybody, welcome back to Watches with Dennis, and today we are going to talk about Patek Philippe. So we're still sort of getting through a lot of these announcements that came out of Watches and Wonders 2021 Geneva, and Patek Philippe, being one of the Holy Trinity, arguably the number one of the Holy Trinity, is an obvious company to discuss. Now, I'm going to touch on the Nautilus, but I'm going to save that to the end because I think that's the one that gets the most interest for obvious reasons. But they did actually reveal a number of new collection pieces. The first one I want to start with is the Inline Perpetual calendar, reference number 5236P. So the innovation here is this is the first time that Patek has released a watch where the month, the date, and the day are all on a single line. And the way they pulled it off is with a 4-disc display system that the movement powers. And so obviously that involved, because it was new to them, involved them having to come up with a new movement to be able to power the device. So pretty impressive. It's sort of a grand complication, I believe is how they define it. And as you would expect, a grand complication watch comes with a grand complication price. This is a little over $130,000 US. If you care about the specs, it is an automatic movement. So we've got the Inline Perpetual calendar. It does leap year. It does day-night indication. It does have small seconds. And the watch case is in platinum. The hour markers are in gold. And the diameter is a little over 41 I think it's 41.3 millimeters. And the thickness is a little over 11 millimeters in size. It looks nice. Grand complication watches are so far out of my price bracket that I don't really look at them too much other than to appreciate the mechanics behind them. And again, Patek shows why it is seen as one of the Holy Trinity. They still can make a really compelling mechanical movement. The next watch set that I want to talk about is the Calatrava. They have I'm sorry again, my French is non-existent, but I believe it's Clous de Paris. References are 6119R and 6119G, so I'm just going to call this the Calatrava 6119s. These are tributes to the Calatrava 3919 from 1985, and that in turn had a successor in 2006. That reference number was 5119. So the biggest difference is these are upsized. Patek has decided to use 39 millimeters for the 6119s. Again, my understanding is they've said that's because their market research indicates that the demand now for even dress watches is at that higher point. I mean, okay, they're in the watch business, not me. So I suppose it's true. I don't really get it. If you're selling a dress watch and that's what the Calatrava is it's a dress watch, then the whole thing is about being subtle, slipping it under the cuff easily. Not that a 39 millimeter can't be thin. It's just the larger the watch, the more noticeable it is. And there's a reason why dress watches historically ran in the 33 to 36 millimeter range. So going up to 39 is a little bit surprising. That being said, 39 millimeter is at that size point that I really like. I'd say my favorite size of watch that I own are generally in the 39 and 40 millimeter range, so 1 millimeter range. And so I get it in a way. It's just, but when I think dress watch, I never think about my 39 plus millimeter watches. Regardless, in terms of complications, these watches have small seconds. They're mechanically wound, not automatic. That keeps the size thinner. Their height is just over 8. It's 8.1 millimeters in thickness. And the diameter, as I noted, is the 39 millimeters. You have a couple choices. One is in white gold and one is in rose gold. And price point wise, these come in just under $30,000 US. The third watch I want to bring up is the 4947/1A. So this is a complication, but not a grand complication watch. This is an annual calendar with moon phases. And so this is the first time, according to Patek, that they have offered an annual calendar in the Calatrava type polished steel case. And it's a 38 millimeter diameter. So this is automatic. It has the annual calendar. It has day and month by hands. It's got a date and an aperture window, and it shows moon phases, and it uses the sweeping seconds hand. As I noted, the Calatrava style polished steel case would suggest it is indeed a steel case. It does have a sapphire crystal case back. 30 meters of water resistance, so pretty typical dress watch standard there. And height is 11 millimeters to complement the 38 millimeter diameter. So let's get to the Nautilus, because that's what everyone cares about, because that's what the world cares about. So the 5711/1A Nautilus, So for those that don't know, the Nautilus is a luxury steel sports watch. It was introduced in the mid-70s. Gerald Genta Design, who came over and did this for Patek after in 1970, he had the Royal Oak with Audemars Piguet or AP, which is another one of the Holy Trinity. And it has been an extremely popular watch. Extremely popular. And the price, while it has always been high, has gotten incredibly high ever since Patek announced that they were discontinuing the 5711. Now, Patek did say they were going to do something to celebrate the end of the 5711, and here it is in all its, 2021 green glory. For those that don't know, the 5711 1A, known as a blue watch, so that's something different, and I'm sure this one will end up commanding quite the premium as well, given how difficult it is to get. I want to walk you all through what the pricing has looked like for the 5711 1A. And so I've pulled this chart from Chrono 24, and as you can see, even going back just, say, 5 years or so, this is a watch that in very good condition was generally trading for a little over $20,000. So expensive, but compared to its retail price, completely reasonable. It has not been reasonable since that stage. And in particular, ever since they have announced that this watch is no longer going to be made, it has climbed up over $100,000. So we're talking a steel sports watch in the six figures. Why is this the case? Why is this watch so popular? I don't know. I've seen things blamed from Instagram and social influencers to Patek being too stingy with the supply that they produce. And I want to discuss that a little bit because I think that's the most interesting piece. But first, just to quickly go over the rest of the highlights regarding this green dial, sunburst olive green is how Patek describes it for this new 5711. It's what you're familiar with. Sweeping second hand, date in the aperture window, automatic movement. Water resistance is 120 meters. It's a 40 millimeter diameter watch. Its height is only 8.3 millimeters. Comes on a steel bracelet. And retails for just under $35,000, but you won't get it retail. This is kind of like how most of the steel sports watches are with Rolex. That's what the Nautilus is for Patek, and it's been that way for a while. In fact, I remember reading when Patek indicated that it was a 10-year wait list to get the Nautilus 5711, and that seemed to be in part the motivation as to why they were discontinuing doing the unit. I want to weigh in a little bit on this because I think a lot of people get confused as to Patek Philippe's behavior regarding the Nautilus. It's sort of a, hey, this is a super popular watch. You could sell it for more than you sell it for. Why aren't you selling it for more money? Why aren't you making more of them? Why do you insist on making more of your other watches instead? Sort of embrace what the market trend says and sell, make a lot of money, and be happy. And I think it's a blend of things. In part, it's Patek wanting to play it safe. I think they look and they see this and they've been public about having concerns about having all your eggs in one basket. And they don't want Patek Philippe to become the Nautilus company. They don't want Patek Philippe to become AP, the Royal Oak company. And I think that's a fair concern. If you go to I already was going to call them Royal Oak. If you go to Audemars Piguet's website and you look at their watches collection, there are 6 collections. Half of them are Royal Oaks. Got the Royal Oak collection, you got the Royal Oak Offshore collection, and you've got the Royal Oak Concept collection. And then their non-Royal Oak stuff is the Millenary collection, they've got their Remaster 01, and they've got the confusingly named Code 1159. And when Code 1159 was announced, I think everyone understood this was AP trying to get people interested in something that is not Royal Oak, because I think they see that they have a problem as well. Not right now. Royal Oak sells great. The problem is what happens when the Royal Oak train derails. Where are they going to, can they survive if the Royal Oak doesn't sell anymore? And I think they're trying to take steps to get people into their other types of watches. And Code 1159 has experienced mixed reactions. I think some people appreciate them, especially as more time has passed now since they first launched, which was in 2019, and others think that they look like a fashion watch. But we're not here to talk about AP. We're here to talk about Patek Philippe's new release with the Nautilus. And So for Patek, they've always tried to make sure they don't go down that road, and they don't want to be the Nautilus company. They want to be Patek Philippe, grand complication masters of the craft. I think it also pisses them off a little bit, or maybe a lot. I think that they think that the Nautilus is Rolex trash, that this is some stupid tool watch. They are to be here making minute repeaters and annual calendars for you folks, not giving you a date window and 100 plus meters of water resistance. And I think they are annoyed that this simplistic tool watch is what everyone wants from them, when they can do so much more in terms of engineering and design skill. This has no prowess to it. This is all about an aesthetic look on what I think even they probably think is an overpriced piece of steel. And so it's like, do I blame them? I mean, kinda. Should you not give the customers what they want? That's the weird thing with watches, is I've looked at, I don't get it sometimes. Actually, I guess I don't get it a lot. Maybe it's like that in fashion in general, and I'm not a fashion person, but I just like watches. But when I look, I get so confused at these horology houses that seem to feel that they are in the position to tell everyone what they should and shouldn't like. And maybe that's what people pay for. I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. Regardless, I think that Patek is just sort of sick of this Nautilus. And so here you go. Here's a green one to celebrate it. Everyone will want it. Everyone's going to try and get it. And it'll be a great smashing success like it always is. Now, do I think that Patek is actually going to quit making Nautiluses? Not a lie. I don't know how we would pluralize this. Anyway, regardless, no, I don't. They may be done with the 5711s. They may do something that is more of a twist on it, but I think they're going to try and still have some portion of their portfolio be the luxury steel sports watch. I think that's inevitable. I think it would be silly for them to cede all of that to AP, to Rolex, to everyone else that makes their name on steel sports watches, because that's what people want right now. And it would be foolish to completely abandon the notion. Now, my thoughts on this version of the Nautilus, like green versus blue, I don't care. In a way, I think I like this green a little bit more than the blue. But again, I don't actually own any watches with a blue dial currently. I do have one watch with a green dial, so maybe I have a bias towards green in dial faces anyway. Other than that, there's really nothing special about the watch. Full disclosure, I don't like the Nautilus. I think it's an incredibly ugly watch. And some of this, again, is me. And when it comes to watches, it's like different equal bad. And my first reaction usually with dramatically different shapes is pretty negative. And then as I look at them more, I warm up to them. I have warmed up more to the Royal Oak, which I initially did not like at all. And it's still not a watch I want, but it's a watch that at least I think I get it. Its industrial design look is kind of cool. The Nautilus doesn't do that for me. Every time I look at the Nautilus, I think, oh, this is a watch from the 70s. And that's about all I think. I find it relatively ugly. So anyway, that's my own personal bias. So those are the highlights I wanted to touch on for Patek Philippe in 2021 in Watches and Wonders. What is everyone's thoughts on this, on the Nautilus, on some of these other watches that Patek really wants you to buy? Comment below and I'd love to read them. And other than that, if you want to be notified when I have a new video, just click the subscribe button and it's simple as that. And otherwise, I'll talk to you all next time. Take care, everybody.